Alrighty, happy Friday as of filming this on 22 April 2022. The topic of this video is going to be businesses changing names, slogans, logos. So what is this what is this video motivated by? It actually came a bit out of the blue. So I was out yesterday with family. We were full car driving around Seattle, and we were out on the roads, and we passed the statue of Lenin, and the topic of Russia came up, and then we kept driving around, and there was this truck for this global company. They paint themselves as global. They use like worldwide in their name, like their slogan. And I'll get into those terms in a little bit. I was looking at this truck so it's boycotting Belarus and Russia. And I said to the car, I was like, hey, technically that company, so first off I point out the company, and I point to the truck, and I point out what the company is. I say, or something like this. I literally pointed out, this company is boycotting Belarus and Russia. Technically, they're no longer worldwide. Because worldwide in their slogan was meant to be serving everybody on Earth. And so that is no longer accurate. So I went further and was like, do you suppose the business will change their name? And nobody had an answer to that exactly. And so it was a very interesting question of, well, let's break it down. So that's the motivation for this video. And so I'm breaking it down now via this video, because we couldn't come up with the answers. Like, is this company actually going to change its name because it is currently false advertising, which I don't actually think is illegal. Well, that's what this video is a little bit about. So I'm going to go over three terms. So like worldwide, global, and then inclusive or all-inclusive. In the sense, okay, so this is serving everybody on Earth. This is serving everybody on Earth. This is serving everybody on Earth. They're all kind of, this can also be like in terms of amenities, but I'm going after like human services, so like worldwide services, global service, or stuff like that. All of these are wrong, are no longer true for companies that are boycotting countries. It's just a reality check. It's not. So it exhibits poor judgment on the part of the companies that have this in their slogan. So another form of this might be the company has a globe, no matter what countries are showing, has a globe or a picture of planet Earth in their logo. And then they exclude countries on planet Earth, entire populations, civilians from countries, kind of thing. And so technically it is false advertising currently if the company is boycotting, because they have decided to discriminate against civilians from certain countries. And so will they change their name? I don't know. It lacks logic to keep the name global or worldwide when one does not. This is me thinking through it. It lacks logic. From my perspective, it's kind of like, if you're calling yourself worldwide or global, and you choose to exclude people or call yourself inclusive, right? Boycotting people, excluding people is by definition discrimination. So, it exhibits very poor judgment for a company to retain these in their name, slogan, or logo because one, it's no longer true. So it's very poor judgment if the company cares about truth or accuracy. And then there's the people on the ground pointing at trucks and us all going, ooh, what, isn't that unethical for the company to retain that name? This is nothing new, so I'm just kind of bringing this up because this is an issue. I mean, this has come up. So what are two examples? So there's the Pan-Pacific Swimming Championships. So this is nothing new. This latest boycott and people false advertising via their name. In some terms, like in YouTube terms, it might be called clickbait. Right? There's marketing something and what they get is something else. So marketing worldwide, or in this case, marketing Pan-Pacific. So like all the countries in the Pacific Ocean and bordering the Pacific Ocean. Are all of the countries represented there? No, not even close. And so this is an example of false advertising in the name because they do discriminate against certain Pacific countries. And another example, and perhaps the most prominent example that like has even been discussed like in business classes of how poorly named it is the Olympic Games. Why? Because the Olympic comes from Mount Olympus in Greece, and the modern Olympic Games were not started by the Greeks. It does not carry on Greek heritage. The Greeks are not involved in the administration, and it's not held in Greece. So this is like, you know what, let's bully the Greeks and take their name and propagate something that is not Greek in any sense or way, but retain the Greek name. So, to allude to something in the past and have non-Greeks compete. And so it's just kind of a very interesting thing because, like, Greece, like, for all we know, their economic problems stem from people just kind of oppressing them in one form through the Olympic Games. And so this is one that's, like, the prime example of using a name that does not represent reality. And I've been in business classes where it's kind of called upon as, like, is it even ethical to have a name where it oppresses people? I mean, it's just an example of a toxic naming system kind of thing. And then talking about other companies, now let's talk about, well, that's nice, so I'm thinking it through, but what if I had a business? So I've talked about a dream business, Lucky, Wallaby Courier. And so I don't have, this is very much not about like certain geographic demographics whatsoever. It's about a concept and not about like people being represented like and having that be the name, right? Like based on modern geography kind of thing. And so how could this affect me? I'm seeing this lack of logic and poor judgment exhibited by global companies. Like if I had this business today, how would I respond? I can point out examples all I want, but how could I incorporate that in business operations if I had this company? And I was thinking about it, I was like, well, technically a world championship, so let's take sporting events, for example. If a sporting event is dubbed or named a world championships and then countries are excluded, by definition, it is no longer a world championships because it discriminates against people from certain countries. So, would I name, like, this is the perfect example, like, why am I bringing this up is like, well, I publish on Wikipedia, so Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, and these events are retaining their original name. Like, there are countries being, like, ostracized by organizations. They're not allowed to participate, that kind of thing. And so and I'm publishing on a publication that's not my own. How would it change if it were my own publication? And I was like, well, I wouldn't use the name World Championships for even if the company or the organization or whatever it is running something and uses the name global or worldwide services or world, and I want to write about the event and people at the event, but the name is no longer consistent with reality. What would I do? So it's like, well, technically the proper term would be international championships, because it's between more than one country and it is not global by definition, because the organization or the company or whatever has decided to discriminate against certain populations. And so what would I do? Just change the name. It's that simple. If one is really consistent, and this is not a suggestion, this is reflecting on me and what I would do from past experience. I've had bad people in my life with unethical kind of violations, and depending on how nitpicky one wants to be, lying could be an ethics violation. So organizations that retain the name World Championships when they are discriminating against and excluding certain populations, on a very basic level, it's a lying, if nothing else, ethics violation. So if I wanted to maintain a very high standard, which is like, just change the name, right? Be like, it's great that this organization wants to retain that name. It's no longer consistent with reality. So if we're writing about that event, just change it to international, make it accurate. Because why propagate inaccuracy? Because at the end of the day, it's not even about ethics standards. It's about accuracy and doing what we can, and in seeing, like, it's hard to get things right. Let's put it in a very positive frame. It's hard to get things right, and when something is so blaringly obvious as an organization or a company boycotting something, it's kind of like, that is no longer global, that is no longer world, that is no longer worldwide, that is no longer all-inclusive, that is no longer inclusive. It's hard, like, there are a lot of little details that are gotten wrong all the time, but on the big things, it is a chance and an opportunity to be accurate and get something right. So actually, I like that. It's about accuracy and getting things right when one can. If you can't all the time, then at the very least change the name of the event to reflect reality. So that would be, and thinking through it, that kind of sounds like me. I'm not going to say it's lax compared to what I've done in the past, but if someone is bad, I will stop using the name kind of thing. I'm not going to propagate the kind of culture that organization or whatever is trying to spread. So those are my 2 cents on businesses changing names, slogans, and logos, like that. Okay, names, slogans, and logos, because they have decided to discriminate and exclude certain populations and retain the global, which is no longer a reflective of reality for those companies or organizations.